Hello and welcome back to the 2018 Canadian University Ultimate Championships. We are here with the last round of pool play action from the women's Tier 1 division. Rebecca Thompson here, joined by Lorcan Murray. We've got Queens in the yellow jerseys matching up against the University of Waterloo, and right away, Win G is going to put a huge floating flick, an unmarked Andrea Moyer in the end zone, but it sails too far away from her.
I like that throw when it went up initially. Seemed like it had plenty of time to sit back down. There was two Queens defenders and nobody deep on a defensive effort for Waterloo, but they get away with it.
Alyssa Mason tapping the disc in for the team in black. Zone look here, swings to Sang in the middle. Sang threading the needle through there to Zhang. No movement upfield though for the Warriors. Swung back now, Mason through the cup to Sang. Good chemistry between those two. Zhang upfield now. That one low, but a good possession-saving grab. Cynthia Dang reels that one in, and now to the sideline for Chow. Dang, that one unfortunately bobbled off of her hand. Can't retain possession. Gonna give a chance back here to the Queens O-line as G picks up. Has the open reset to the far side. Queens shooting to the end zone, an open cutter, but running that one in. Green tapping it back in, goes to the far side, wide open for the goal, and just like that, Queens is up 1-0.
Much better offensive look on the second time once they started moving the disc between the players. Nice undercuts, good use of the field position that they gained. A surprising drop, considering the incredible grab she made mere moments before, but apparently having it thrown near to her is actually one of her weaknesses. So the Queens open up the game with a hold. The Paper Bag Princesses, which is one of my favorite team names that I've ever heard in my life.
A name they've had for many, many years. This program rich in history as well. They were champions back in 2016. Bronze medal last year at this tournament, so looking to come back again to the podium, looking for that #1 spot. Of course, they've played, and we've talked about this in our other games, they've played Waterloo twice this year already. They lost to them on Universe the first time around at Steeltown, managed to beat them by a couple points at Easterns. Talked to Coach Paul Renaud before the game, and he said that they felt like those games had been very even, very close, not a lot of weather, and with weather in play today, anything can happen.
So it'll be interesting to see who takes this, what is sometimes known as a rubber match, when the previous two encounters were split between the competitors. This is for seeding, which can help you ease your way into a final with an easier quarterfinal berth.
See Ramich there, recognizing that her team was going to be offside, backed up to pull again. Lana Ramich with the pull here for Queens. Get a first look at the offensive line for Waterloo as Toe centers that one to the middle for you. Hannah Toe again. The layout to try to retain possession isn't good, and Queens a chance to get the first break of the game. Ramich coming to pick up the disc here. U24 player with the mixed team in Perth, swinging the disc back around to the middle. Craig puts that one around. Break side open. That one's going to blade around and bobbled off the hands of the receiver. That disc just sails up a little bit too high.
Yes, you'd have to say that the underside of that disc was exposed a bit too much by Janice Lowe, and as a result, the wind was able to catch it and just push it away from her intended receiver. Excellent move by them to the break side. She had two open players. Bit too much edge on the disc, but fantastic flow.
You centers that right away to Toe. Now back around you, trying to find some space through this four-person cup here from Queens, and it's picked off. A hand block, just getting the touch and easily dished into the end zone. Craig hitting Kristen Ho. First break of the game, 2-0.
Excellent play by Craig as well to just catch that. Somewhat perplexed it seemed when she found the disc in her possession, but she sees Ho and she gives it to her straight away for the quick break. Queens make up for their misstep, because you have to say it was a misstep, an execution error. They look very good on the defensive offense side, and they're able to cash it in. So 2-0. And considering the Queens did the double in 2016, very widely considered to be disappointing for them the following year, to not make either of the finals in the Open or Women's divisions. We were talking earlier on about Queens and how they are one of the major targets we're looking at for a championship glory in the Open division. In the Women's division, is it a similar equation?
Absolutely. This program has been building for so many years. They've obviously had previous championships. Even last year, despite not making the finals, they're still on the podium, so always in the conversation of those powerhouse teams. They've got the likes of Laval in the other pool, Carleton to compete against, and of course this Waterloo team who's already defeated them once this year. So definitely in the top 4. We'll remain to see if they can make finals tomorrow.
So this is an interesting power struggle we get to witness now. A little insight into how 2 of the top teams in this tournament lock horns.
Ramich sails that pull down. Good to see some inbounds pulls, and that one's going to roll out the sideline, give Queens a chance to set up their zone, but centered to the middle right away. Moving it back around, and Mason, uncharacteristic bobble off of her hands, already thinking about the throw, giving Ramich a chance to pick up the disc for her team 10 yards from the end zone. Has an initiating cutter wide open in space to the break side. An unfortunate bobble off the hands of Tiana Young. That is an opportunity wasted here for Queens.
It has to go begging. But once again, we must acknowledge that the Queens are fantastic at least targeting that break side with their movement and with their handler throws. The execution's been somewhat off right now.
So Jesse Sang and Mason trying to work together as that one goes forward, but that one just touched gently by Moyer, pushes it away from Mason. Waterloo having a really hard time figuring out the zone from Queens here. Ramich, wide open cut in the end zone. Defense not picking up the initiating cutter. Queens looked around as if to think there must have been a call there, but nothing, and they go on a 3-point run to start this game.
And that happened twice in a row. They weren't able to convert the first one due to the drop, but the front of stack, clearly the initiation cutter for their end zone set completely unmarked. That's unforgivable for Waterloo. You have to be punished for that. So 3-0 down, they find themselves almost immediately.
You really can't give opportunities to a team like Queens twice on your doorstep. They're going to convert on that second chance in the end zone. A team with a lot of discipline. Just saw Coach Greg Taylor for Waterloo as well, just getting his players to loosen up, maybe warm up a little bit and try to relax. They look a little bit under pressure right now, a little bit nervous against this Queens zone.
It is somewhat peculiar when you consider the experience that they have in their handling core. I mean, when you see the likes of Alyssa Mason make that kind of a drop, but maybe you're right, maybe it's a factor of the cold fingers. Stiff little fingers, always a difficult thing to use to corral a disc. Maybe a little bit of nerves as well.
A lot on the line here for Waterloo as well. They lost their opening game today, 5-4 to the University of McMaster. A huge upset there. And they were without Alyssa Mason in that game. Of course, she's a big factor. We'll see her hopefully come out of her shell a bit more in this one. But for them, winning this game could really affect playing top teams like Laval in quarters or semis tomorrow. They really want to put themselves in a better position by getting a victory. So I think maybe feeling the pressure of that early loss today in this one.
So let's see how they try to rectify their missteps. It's difficult when it's drops. That's not a tactics thing. It's not an ability thing. It's just one of those issues. I can never really think of a direct way to address it. It's always something you have to address indirectly. Maybe it's a morale thing. Maybe it's a cold thing. You're not woken up enough for the match. So we'll see how that timeout served the Waterloo Warriors well, and if they can come out to play.
So this pull is going to roll nicely. Stopped there by Sang and will be picked up here. Angela Yu centers it to toe. The zone look again here from Queens as Yu gets it back in the middle of the field. Only 2 handlers back right now for this Waterloo offense. They don't have any option on the sideline. Toe looking to that space, only has a deep look. Alyssa Mason is there in the space, runs it down, stretching it deep. A good late stall count option goes over the top. High release backhand to the end zone to Zhang for the goal, and not a bad response here from Waterloo.
I absolutely love that throw from Toe. She was running out of options. She goes with an inside-out backhand huck, manages to get it into a position where really there was only her receiver able to collect it. For a moment, it looked like it was going to be D'd up, but it was an absolutely phenomenal throw, especially considering the high stall count.
Absolutely, and to have the likes of Alyssa Mason in that deep space, a good advantage here for Waterloo to be able to use that, and they're going to want to continue to get those players involved. I was a little concerned there about the lack of handlers in the zone. They had 2 people back, and with a 4-person cup, they really have to be able to make that cup move if they're going to create space upfield.
We were able to see the likes of Thibault and Peloz for the all yesterday combined very well as a 2-person team against a zone, but it's so difficult to do. It requires such an elite level of throwing and almost a symbiotic relationship with the person you're going to be working with. Something I would be concerned about is that was an excellent throw, but I mean, it was a desperation one. It came out and it was their only option at the time. They haven't really found a way to effectively get through this queen zone yet. So we'll have to see how their O-line adjusts to that going forward. But for now, we get another look at the queen side on offense.
That is something that in their loss at the Eastern Championship, they talked about the fact that they couldn't break down the queen zone. They couldn't figure it out. So the last few weeks in practice, they've been working on that. So they'll have to start to have that come out now as the pull bounces down and is collected into the middle to G. A zone look now from the Waterloo side. That one going give and go. G now in the middle. G putting it over to the sideline, going 1 and 2 through the give and goes, trying to make some movement in this cut, but no options. Goes the flick around. A good shot there. Had a wide open receiver. Mason had taken the under, but another bobble off the hand as Waterloo a chance to go back to the middle. Dang swings it around to Mason. Mason staying calm, looking for an option. Now over to the far sideline, moving it upfield. Waterloo moving with good pace here. Ledouceur with the disc.
And this is some fantastic swinging by Waterloo. Mason doing a great job of coming in there and making sure that throw was completed. But it's excellent stuff of constantly moving it across laterally the pitch and then hitting those unders. Well, now they're starting to stagnate ever so slightly.
This one bobbled again by Mason, but this time she keeps control of it. You can see she had her eye on that one the entire time. And it looks like a fast count called. The Queen's player acknowledging that she didn't reduce the stall count there when she needed to. So disc back in play. Dang.
So with the swings they were getting earlier on, able to hit the unders on the sidelines, it looked like they had found the way through the zone. But again, Queens have done a good job of clamping down, and those cuts from the sideline are not coming. So when they swing from sideline to sideline, there's no big gain.
No, I have to agree with that. They need to find a way to move up the field. Now with Mason, fakes the pump fake, looking for the deep space. Goes for a little high release over to Dang. Dang moves it to the near sideline for So. Now a shot through the cup, and that is some good movement that they need as McFarland looks back to Mason, but now losing some of those yards they gained. McFarland again through the cup. 1 and 2 to Mason. The melt called here from Queens. They switch over to match. Mason has Turner on the far side, streaking up line, but the mark doing a good job to take that one away. Now Turner finding Mason again, who continued her cut back under. Mason has a reset option with Dang, doesn't take it, shoots backhand to the end zone. That one's going to sail too far, and Win G was in that space the whole time tracking it down.
So about once or twice there, Waterloo were able to swing it to a sideline and then hit an under coming towards them. But after that, the cuts stopped coming. The people making them kind of just sat on the wings and stopped moving as much, and it just allows Queens to get away with encroaching closer to the handlers.
So G now, again, Waterloo set up in that zone, a slightly different zone from the Queens one, as G looking over the top into the floating space. This one is going to work. Now over to the near sideline as Whitman puts it to the end zone, and another bobble off the hands of her teammates. Queens is going to want to clean that up a little bit, not gift the disc back to Waterloo here. Mason acting in a central handler role here for the D-line of Waterloo. Mason, you can see her directing traffic there, signaling at her cutters to come in. Still very little movement from this Waterloo side right now.
So at this point, there's the cut that they need to hit, but nobody... Oh, there's a stall out being called. But you understand what I mean when I say they are not swinging it out and then before the zone has a chance to come across, hitting someone in the space further down the line. Their wing cutters are not doing a good job against this zone.
Absolutely, and with a 4-person cup that Queens has been playing as well, there's usually a lot of space once you can make that cup move and shift into those new positions to find the space upfield. Totally agree. They've got to find a way to throw and go, create some space. Looks like the disc is going to come back. A contested stall down call. Did seem a little bit quick, not out of the realm of possibility, but a little bit quick from my thought process. But we only know so much up here, of course. Got to leave it to the players down there, as Cynthia Dang will bring the disc back into play here.
Well, we know Dang, McFarlane, Mason are going to be running the show, but what I really need to see... Oh, and there's the immediate interception.
But again, that one, Chen trying to put it quickly into the end zone, and McFarland picks it off, read that one perfectly. They can't waste opportunities like that, need to be patient right at the end zone as Mason does a good job to move it quickly, this time upfield, and now Turner on the far sideline. A good one-handed snag to keep possession, has the options back. Cup setting up again, low movement here for Waterloo once again as Turner has it on the far side. Now Mason back in the middle.
So she needs to complete that swing and hit So. So was open there for a brief moment. She was in the right position. And now as they go back, Ladouceur needs to come along so they can get it to Turner on the sideline. Ladouceur can get a couple of gains. But they don't do it quick enough. It's stagnating in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking quite stagnant, as you said there.
And there's Ladouceur. A huge layout block, though.
Big block there. See this time if Queens can take advantage of it. G will pick up the central handler, the general of this offensive unit here. Goes for the inside out flick. Has the open shot, but Craig just straddling the end zone line. Has Chen in the end zone. That one will count. Queens taking advantage on what must have been their 3rd or 4th attempt there.
Great work by Chen, and she was working tirelessly as a cutter. Had one unfortunate drop, had another great grab followed by a very difficult catch to try and make. And you can just see she constantly gets the disc downfield for this Queen side.
So Waterloo needing to generate something different on offense here. They're not making the cup move. They're not getting their cutters involved. If you're down there as their coach, what are you telling them to get them to start moving more?
Stop holding the disc in the middle of the pitch. Stop it. I know you're the best player. Generally it's Dang with the disc in the middle of the pitch, or else it's Mason. I know you're the best player. I know you feel like you can throw through that zone. You probably can, but your cutters are not allowing that option. The way you've set up, complete the swing to the far sideline and have So on the near sideline for that point and Ladouceur on the far sideline. A few times on the far sideline, Ladouceur was able to do it. Generally from throws from either Mason or through the zone or down the sideline, and also Turner. Like, Turner spent the whole time standing on that far sideline, and they never got it to her until the 3rd or 4th possession. She should be getting it every 6th or 7th pass. Just swing it like a typewriter all the way across, and when you get to the wing, is someone coming under? If they're not, immediately send it back. When you get to the other wing, is someone coming under? That's how you beat this zone. They keep trying to go through the middle, and the cutters aren't doing a good enough job of pulling it apart, because you need at least 2 cutters in the same space.
Absolutely a fantastic rolling pull there from Ramich as Queens comes down hot on this defensive end. Disc was Zhang. Swung back to Toe now. Again, this zone look from Queens. It's been so effective for them so far as Toe finds a hole through the zone, but it's picked off on defense. Running through for that one is McGregor. Ramich now has Moyer in the middle and just maybe thinking about the throw. Didn't quite watch it into her hands. That one slips through. We're going to give Waterloo a chance to go all the way here. Now with the person set. Or just the zone taking a little bit long to set rather, as Sang shoots that one through but pops it up over. And right now the execution is beating Waterloo here.
I feel like they're trying to take shortcuts through the zone when they need to be working around it.
Moyer in the middle now. Finding a spot through the zone, but the execution again, the throw not working out there as Miranda Coe has it for Waterloo. Yu swinging it over to Toe. Gaining some yards. That's a bit better here from this Waterloo team as Paige Hare looks for the next option. Gets an inside out flick, a great layout grab. Hannah Toe retaining possession here for Waterloo, and now to the end zone. Break side throw, a fantastic job. The lefty handler breaks the mark, and it's a 4-2, a good hold from Waterloo.
But again, they did not break down the zone. There was a bit of confusion for Queens as they tried to set it up. Then they tried to do a little bit of a melt. Waterloo did a great job of just staying patient, attacking what eventually became the break side, but they still haven't shown they know how to get through that zone. So if I was Queen's D-line, I'd be feeling very confident.
I think Queens knows that their zone has been working. On the other hand, if Waterloo can start to move the disc a bit faster off those turns, not let them set up, it can continue to create that confusion for Queens, and I think they can use that to their advantage rather than allowing that zone to set, and then they get stuck in those positions when they're not working it upfield.
Now I just want to take a brief moment to sing the praises of Hannah Toe. She has been a bright spark early on for Waterloo, and that layout catch on a very difficult up-the-line throw from Hare was beautiful. So they're going to need to see a lot more of those kinds of plays.
So Mason back out on the D-line. Of course, teammates with Lana Ramich on this Queens team, the U24 mixed team. Her Waterloo teammate Jessie Sang played for Hong Kong at U24 Worlds as well, so some world experience on this field right now. G, another U20 Team Canada player, dishes the disc to Chen. G crashing into the cup. Waterloo does a good job of stopping that crash, and then Alyssa Mason, the hand block, she was reading that one all the way. Gonna give Waterloo an opportunity here at the break as Lucy Chow will pick up. Chow looking for the break side to Mason, doesn't have her on the first one, finds Turner on the far side poached off.
I like that poach from Chen.
Now Sang in the middle. Sang going break side around. That one, Mason realizes she's got a teammate in the end zone to go for the grab. The observers signal the goal, and that is a break here for Waterloo.
I've got a little bit of a theory. Becky. I don't think she knew she had a teammate. I think she saw that going too far away from her, and she went, for the love of it's an open pass. But then her teammate screaming across and making sure of it with a bit of a dive as well. Lovely backup play.
Hard to tell. I do think she had a little shoulder check in there to make sure Alyssa Mason not shy of bidding for the disc. So I'm surprised to see her not fully go for it without somebody calling her off. But you never really know unless you're down on the field, of course. So we'll see how this continues. A good break point here for Waterloo, getting themselves back involved. They really needed to do that, especially early in this game, and not let Queens run away with it.
And again, on the turn, Queens were unable to set up a zone, so they just went straight to match defense. And Waterloo using some of their leaders to get free in the initial exchanges of it.
So now we see a slightly different defensive line out here for Waterloo, actually putting several of their offensive line members on the field, giving the D-line a break, possibly after getting a break. You do see a lot of crossover in these teams, lower on numbers. It's cold out. You want to get everybody moving and not standing on the sideline the entire time as Hannah Toe, the big pull downfield.
So big a pull, it caused her hood to come down.
Moyer centers that to G. The same offensive line out here for Queens as G puts a nice around flick up to Whitman. Now working it upfield to Chen. Causing the melt call here from Waterloo. Chen has G back, but that one, G didn't continue her cut into that space. Waterloo, a chance now. And you've got to feel good with the likes of you picking up the disc here. The zone, though, setting for Queens. A slightly different zone than their previous look. They only have 3 people now in the cup. On the far sideline here, Ko looking to swing it around. Toe and Yu combining as well now. Now through the cup, finding a hole. They're going to move it upfield here. Wu with the disc. Swings that around to Yu. Now Toe. Bit quicker movement, but a travel called here in the middle of the field.
I think Proust is getting ever closer to a hand block on one of those swings as well. She very nearly had that last one.
So Angela Yu just verifying the stall count is coming in on 1, and she taps it in. Brings it over to Wu on the near sideline. Wu has Toe open in the middle. Toe looking around, but puts that one behind the cut of Miranda Ko. That's not going to work for them. They've got to be precise with these throws.
Almost like they're rushing themselves when they don't have to.
Gee, a great reset cut. Moyer roasting her defender there. Now Chen. Match defense here from Waterloo. Chen goes upfield. That one's going to sail high. Bobbled off the hand of the defender. That's why you catch your Ds. Craig to the end zone for Law, and the goal here for Queens.
That's why you catch your Ds. Excellent recovery by Craig with the one-handed snatch out of the sky on a bobbly disc in the wind.
Absolutely. Queens doing a good job. The second effort there from Craig. That disc got to be caught on defense. If you're going to go up for it, you've got to try and get a better effort on that one. It looked like you didn't really think there was anyone behind her when she went up for that one.
She unfortunately learned the hard way. And it is quite frustrating, especially in these conditions as a coach, when you see your players do all of the hard work. Sometimes you can't catch the D. Sometimes you just can't. But that one seemed like she could have maybe been able to wrap her fingers around it.
So a hold for Queens. Their O-line working pretty well together. Some chemistry showing there. Got Andrea Moyer now crossing over to the D-line. Lana Ramich back on the field, ready to pull here for Queens, looking for another break. Waterloo, on the other hand, will want to respond and stay within one here as the pull sails deep. Mason picks up, centers to Dang. No surprises here with the zone look coming down for Queens as Dang goes to McFarland on the sideline. McFarland only has Mason back, no options upfield here. Still trapped down and getting pushed back in their own zone. McFarland. Again, only Mason back, and Mason, another uncharacteristic mistake. Not common to see her dropping an easy pass in her own end of the field.
You have to say that one looked like it was a lack of focus again. Thinking about the next action before completing the first.
Ramich to Moyer, trying to lay out on defense, but it was already in the hands of Moyer, and a fantastic break here from the paper bag princesses.
It was brilliant stuff, and Ramich threw Mason to the ground without ever touching her. That's the sign of a brilliant fake.
Incredible job there from Queens. The fake from the throw on Ramich. Andrea Moyer there cutting hard back to the middle and then one step hard back towards the sideline as well. No dancing on that. With absolute certainty, everyone knew where she was making that cut. Great job here from the Queens defensive line.
Huge defensive effort as well with the layout, but couldn't quite get there in the end. Was that Deng who went for the layout?
Jessie Sang there with the bid. Very athletic player. Her and Mason both played at the University of Laurier together for a couple years, playing for the Open team. There's no women's program there now. Actually, Waterloo in the same city as Laurier, and they've crossed over to this team and this program, both taking classes at Waterloo in order to play for this team and try to build this program. They've really helped them be a solid team this year, but they need to focus in a little bit. Drops like the one Mason made, they cannot get away with that against a team like Queens.
So 6-3. And Waterloo still don't seem to have found the answer to Queen's zone. Lately it's been more mistakes though that have cost them. But again, it just feels like they're trying to rush themselves when they don't need to. One of the wonderful things about that kind of 3-3-1 zone that Queens have been busting out is that there's always an open pass. It's generally a lateral or a backwards one, but there's always an open pass.
So Toe in the middle shoots that one through. Sang does a good job to keep that one in possession. Doesn't have the next option upfield. Toe finding another gap, but that one too low. Looking maybe too excited about the space as Ramich goes around to Whitman. Whitman shooting for the end zone, has Chen perfectly reeled in, and Queens making it look easy on the transition.
Punishing them immediately. 7-3, excellently done. But you can see again the time where they swung it, and then as they're making their way back in, they could go through the zone because the zone was moving. Once they let the zone to set, it's a much smaller window. It's a much more difficult throw. There's no need to force that. Take your time, take a breath, take the open pass, move yourself.
Absolutely. I think take a breath is something that this team really needs to hear right now. They're rushing it, and they just look a bit uncomfortable sometimes with the disc in their hands as well.
That's a very good point. So, at 7-3 down. Starting the game on defense, They need a hold here to keep the first half alive. And you got to think they need to score a few points. It's been a very quick first few points. After only half an hour to be 7-3 up, Queens have got to be proud of themselves. Those are some quick turnaround scores. And again, it's short field turnovers. Short field turnovers from trying to force their way through the zone.
You see a team like Queens so ready to take advantage of those transitions as well. They've done a good job of picking their moments, opting for the quick throw to the end zone or taking their time and setting up a play as well. They're clearly able to do it, and their communication on the field has got to be good for that to be occurring right now. So Moyer ready to pull. Ramich taking a break from this D-line. Moyer, another player who played for the under-20 Team Canada team in Waterloo this summer. Mason centering it now to Dang. That one just escaping over the hands of the defense, and Turner, too casual, trying to attack that disc with one hand. Another short field turnover, a chance here. Queens could take half. Ho centers that one to Moyer. Moyer looking for the next option, good patience there. Found it, but unfortunately that one, again, a little bit of that relaxed nature in going for that catch and can't make the grab there.
So Waterloo get away with it, have another chance, and again they're going for the difficult passes. There's an open pass behind you and the swing for that person considerably easier.
Sang trying to force that one through the space as now Ho picks up. Ho looking for an option, has Moyer in the end zone, and Moyer so dangerous with those upline cuts. She will take half here for Queens.
And that's got to be one of the quickest halves we've had all tournament long. An emphatic 8-3 run by Queens. Incredibly impressive. So clinical, for the most part, on those short field turnovers. Really punishing Waterloo. And I would be concerned if Waterloo cannot solve that problem. But generally, these are the exact kind of problems that can be solved at halftime. These are always the problems I want going into halftime. You don't want a problem of they've got a handler we can't shut down. You don't want a problem of our two best players aren't playing very well. You don't want a problem of the team is fighting. Something as this zone, how do we get through it? A coach can take some time, explain it to their squad, let them settle. And we will let you settle as we take a quick 5-minute break. We'll be back. This is the last game, so where else are you going to go? Here for the Canadian University Ultimate Championships.
All right, welcome back. Canadian University Ultimate Championships here in the cold Brampton weather right now. It's Rebecca Thompson here, joined by Lorcan Murray. And Lorcan, we saw a very interesting first half, a lot of zone, a lot of strategy played. What do you think we're going to see now moving into the second half?
Well, I'll tell you what I want to see, and that's what I want to see is Waterloo execute what their coach just told them in that circle. Because I think everybody watching at home right now who has coached before is a little frustrated going, why aren't they swinging? Why aren't they dumping swinging against this zone? So let's see how that offense looks and what adjustments they've been able to make at halftime, and if they can use it to get themselves back into this game.
Absolutely, and a quick first half. There's just over 45 minutes left in this one, 47 minutes to go on the clock, so plenty of time for Waterloo to come back in this one. Just had to get the disc off the other field there on the far side, as you will get to bring this one in. Just rolling out of bounds, takes it on the sideline. A trap zone set up here from Queens as you swings it back to Toe. Toe, again, the low shot through the zone. This one, Zhang able to keep it in her hands. And this one again, Toe walking a fine line with those shots, but it works out here as Waterloo able to now move it up the field.
You could even see from how Waterloo set up that they were trying to spread the zone apart, and this time they go through the middle much easier as a result.
Hannah Toe shooting around. That one's going to float up, and Ramic comes down with it through about 3 Waterloo players, getting her hand to that one first. Immediately the flick around, going deep towards Chen, and Chen, I think, thought she had that, just dropped with the wind right before her hands closed around the edge of the disc as Toe. Now Waterloo going back the other way, but no receiver in that space.
Ramic just waiting.
With someone like Ramic there waiting for it, you've got to be sure. You've got to have a player more like Alyssa Mason going who can contest for that, as this one, Zhang picks it off.
It's quite an impressive D by Zhang as well. Maybe sent her deep once or twice.
Absolutely, getting up for that one. That one again picked off, and right now both teams making execution errors, throwing it in to defenders. Ramic.
Definitely wanted the flick, Huck.
Lana Ramic shooting that one too low. She'll want that one back. See if Waterloo this time on their third attempt here can convert. The zone set up this time here from Queens as Toe has it back. Yu crashes into the cup. Yu shooting around, Ramic in the space, and no problem for her there. Moving it quickly to get the offense flowing. Queens moving up the field now with Proust shooting up to Chen. Chen watching that one all the way in her hands. Ramic unmarked, but a hand block, and Waterloo turning on the defensive pressure there with Jolene Zhang. And now she's going to go deep. Toe shooting a great shot. Ramic tracking. Unfortunately can't get there. Just lost it over her head and misread it as it flew around her left shoulder there. Now got Proust on the disc. The intensity seems to have picked up a little bit in this second half here. Ramic swings that one around, and that, not a good shot. Queens and Waterloo both executing their throws poorly right now on this first point.
Yeah, one has to wonder what it was the coaches said to their respective teams in the halftime, because both sides coming out and looking a step worse than they did before the half.
That one, a touch on it, but no problem. Zhang reads it well. Zhang centering that one back to Toe. Toe has the around shot, a good flick fake to make the mark move, and now to the end zone. That one straight into the hands of her receiver. Waterloo needed to get a hold right out of half, and they've got it now, only 4 points down.
And you can see Ramic was poaching off considerably, patrolling that deep space, but punished for it in the end as they get it to her hair with a lovely swing, and she gets the easy shot for the break side score.
It's a bit better from Waterloo. It looks like some of their mistakes there just based on maybe a little bit of desperation, wanting to get the points in. They know that point, and they're 5 points down, now 4, but maybe just trying to force it a few times, a little bit too much, worrying about trying to get that goal rather than the process of how they get there.
Especially with Ramic, who really cottoned on to the kind of style they were going for and was just patrolling, getting those Ds. That last shot, which was a brilliant recognition of Ramich being under and trying to send it with a lot of float, but in the end it was carried just a little bit too far, a little bit misread. She's probably a maths student.
So we'll see if Waterloo can come straight out and get a break here. They've got their main D-line on. You see some of their top players. Mason trying to warm herself up down there. Got Jessie Sang and Lucy Chow, McFarland down on the line as well. So definitely putting on some top players, trying to get this turn. Queens, their central O-line, back out there as Mason lining up to pull. That one is going to catch the wind and unfortunately sail way out of bounds. These pulls going that direction really have to be kept low to stay in bounds.
Especially with the USAU rules that they get to center it from wherever it went out of bounds. You'd be much better serviced by just keeping it in, I think. Or a rolling one that would get that far before turning and starting to go out of bounds.
Mason on the mark, G with the disc here for Queens. The zone look here as G goes for the big around flick. It's being read well by Craig, but it just dropped too low before she was able to make a play on it. So Chow brings it up quickly. You see them trying now to move it before the zone sets. A little bit more of a sense of urgency here from this Waterloo team. Mason, that one picked off. Looks like she thought about making a call, but now hanging her head, walking back as Queens setting up their end zone play here with G on the disc. G has Whitman going, and that one, a huge layout D, Lucy Chow into traffic, and that will stand as a turn. Make sure she's okay over there. What a phenomenal D. Chow, not even her player, read that disc perfectly.
Fearless as well. And all things considered, very clean for such a congested space.
Mason running out of options here for Waterloo. Stall count climbing, has Dang behind her. Deep into their territory now. Dang nervous and snagging that one out of the air, but immediately turfs it into the ground. And these are the mistakes that Waterloo has been making throughout the course of this game. The scoreline dictated a lot by the execution from Waterloo as G now picks up. Has Proust coming under. Proust tracking that one down, and another huge layout bid, knocking that one to the ground. Mason trying to move it quickly and just rushing it again. A gift back here. That was Nguyen with the D for Waterloo.
They're just wasting these excellent defensive efforts.
Disc in the middle of the field. G, the great high release flick to the break side to Chen. Queens taking advantage of all the mistakes made by Waterloo, and what a great shot to capitalize an exclamation mark on that point for Queens.
So a scrappy point, but one they're able to come out on top of. And for anybody who's listening earlier on, you will of course recognize that that was my advice. These blady flicks people kept putting up were too much under the influence of the wind. So if you just go for a high release flick, nice, easy, tasty little dish for an afternoon snack.
And phenomenal layout D, going back to the D there that Celine Nguyen was able to make on the upline cut from Proust. Absolutely fully horizontal to the ground. Waterloo is going to have to take advantage of the turns. They're working hard on defense, there's no question about that, but just giving it back to Queens each time they get it on offense right now.
So Waterloo had so many chances and never got out of their own half, which is concerning. 9-4. Queens very much in control of this game. And does it seem... It seemed initially to be tactical, but when you saw the way Alyssa Mason dropped her head, when you see the kind of drops there throughout the team, or when such as Nugent makes that fantastic layout D, and then the first look is a deep shot to a contested space, how would you adjust mentally? What would you be saying to your team to try and get them back into this? Because it seems like that's where they're missing right now.
Well, we've said it before, they have to take a deep breath and they have to focus on the things that they can control. When they do get those Ds, they have to be patient with the disc, hit the open option, make the cut move. They're swinging it nicely now, and that's what they've got to do on every point. That one contested into the space. Toe gets up high for that. Now moving it back around to the far sideline. Ko with the disc, pops it up to Hannah Toe.
Like, you have to ask yourself, what is Minikin doing in the middle of the pitch, and how is she affecting the zone?
Sliding grab there by Wu, now centering it back to the middle, all the way to the far side. Ko. Again, Waterloo having trouble making yards up the field as Wu has had to go low twice, and that one shot into space. I thought the Queens player had got into that one first, but Zhang doing a good job recognizing that that had fallen short. Waterloo having to make a lot of possession saving catches right now as Toe is going to shoot a floaty one to the end zone into double coverage, and nothing that Waterloo could do about that with the likes of Lana Ramic in that space.
So active as a defender. If she's in the stack, you know she's watching any cuts going deep.
Ho moves that one through, and a nice shot through the cup here. Ramic, huge layout there. Not sure she actually got a touch on it, but enough pressure. The disc falls to the ground as Yu has it now, going up line to Wu. Wu goes up line into 3 defenders. That is not the option. Waterloo having a hard time looking for the open spaces right now.
I would have liked to see Jacqueline Ye be a bit more authoritative. She was completely free on the break side, but was rather quiet about it to her teammates.
Ho will swing that one over. And a big put from Ramic, but this one into the deep space, and it's picked up on the second attempt by Catherine Green. Toe got there first, but Green reels it in, and now Ramic to the end zone. That one's floating in the space, and this time Hannah Toe comes through. Looks like there's going to be a call on the play.
Fantastic defensive effort from Toe to make up that distance. The deep shot was on after the initial reception, and then you could see once Ramic got it, all she wanted to do was send it deep, and she was the one person who had the disc in her hands who it wasn't really on for.
So the call retracted after a little discussion there. You will pick up the Queen zone set up again.
Now look at the acres of space that are currently in front of Wu. If they've been able to swing it to Wu and then just send it down the line to Ye. But now they go too late. Now swing it all the way across. You can see the space, but they stop it in the middle every time.
And that one, again, straight into a poach here. Green getting her hand to there. And now Ramic on the doorstep of another break here for Queens. Has Ho back in the middle, finds the reset. Ho goes up line to Villeneuve Smith, and now into the end zone. A lot of contact on that play. Ramic making the call here on Toe. Toe desperate to get the disc back for her Waterloo side.
Uncontested foul. Ramic is going to get it on the end zone line. Nice use of hand signals by the observers.
Good high five there as they signal the start of play again. Ramic goes around, backhand, has a wide open cutter in the end zone who didn't even know she was in bounds. Green with the goal, and another break here for Queens.
So that makes it 10-4. Good, buddy. And Queens definitely just have to put this game to bed now.
Waterloo not looking like the same team that they did in the last few weeks of the season, winning the Steeltown Championship from a Universe Point, come from behind win against Queens. So we know that they've made comebacks before against this team. Of course, losing to Queens in the final game at Easterns, and now just not looking like they have any shot of breaking down Queens. And Queens off to the races, look so confident, excited to try things. They're putting up more hucks now as well. They look relaxed with the disc in their hands.
Maybe too many hucks. Maybe, Becky.
You know, at this point, when they're up 10-4, I'm happy to see them try it to some extent. They're trying to build some of that chemistry. They've got quarterfinals tomorrow morning, see what works, try and get those players initiating deep. If you have someone like Ramic who can put it the way she has been and the way we know she can, she could be a big threat against those teams in bracket play tomorrow. So, 10-4 here. Queens confidently leading over Waterloo. Still over half an hour remaining in this game. It's been a quick one so far. We'll see if Waterloo can answer with a hold right away as that pull from Moyer is going to sail down. But I think unsure where it was going to land. Dang will now center it to Chow. Cynthia Dang again. Now Turner on the near sideline. only has Chow back, and this has been the issue for Waterloo, staying in their own space here. Swinging it around to Deng. Now Turner. No options upfield, the stagnant movement again. This time Mason finds a hole through and goes to Sang. Better movement here from Waterloo. They need to continue that momentum before the cup catches up right now, allowing them to come back and set. Zhang on the far side. And then straight into the poach. Looks like she didn't even see Proust there in that space. Proust easily reading it, getting the run through D.
Proust is a very sneaky player.
Moyer puts that around, and this time Zhang getting it right back on Proust. She wanted that one back. That's exactly what you want to see from your players, going and getting their throwaways back immediately as Turner now picks up and looks to Deng, but again, the queen zone already set in place.
There you go. That's how you beat it.
A huge bid. Mason did a good job to jump over Sang there. She retained possession, and now Mason finding Turner on the near side. Turner to the end zone, and that's better from Waterloo. Like you said, Lorcan, finally the give and go motion up line that we haven't seen throughout this game, breaking down that queen zone.
Center handler hits the sideline for a slight gain, but then cuts immediately up the line. The disc moves slightly back in off the sideline. They attack through the space that will appear as the zone itself. Those three players move across to the sideline to try and get the force on. She moved with them. Open throw, 100% easy to do. And at that point, you've now moved yourself closer to the wing. So it's a nice outside in, just around the wing. Now, it did require a quite spectacular layup, but I think Mason would have got it anyway. And that is how you beat it. And they've had opportunities. On the previous point, on this point, you see the spaces available, and they don't go all the way to the wing. So hopefully that's the start of a trend. And hopefully it'll see them climb their way back into this match.
Absolutely would love to see that. They had that one break early in the first half of the game, bringing it back within one, so they know that they can break this Queens offensive line, but they've got to do it several times in a row now. Queens could trade this game out, 5 points away from winning this one.
And taking the top spot of their group, which would be the high seeding going into tomorrow. Seeding, the second highest seeding in the tournament.
So Ramich will collect. Ramich moving over to the O-line from the defensive line. I think Queens here making sure that they can get this hold as Whitman, one of the captains, moves that up. Ramich going. Ramich extends to grab that, and now shooting to the end zone. Mason is in the space, comes down with it, elevating for the D, but set her pivot foot in the end zone right after. Now Sang moving it upfield. Waterloo trying to start some movement a little bit quicker here as Mason has it and has Sang through the cup. Spots her. Sang bobbles it but keeps her eye on it. Much better movement here. Ko puts it over to Hannah Toe. Has Mason back. Now slowed down on their momentum here as the Queen's Cup caught up. Mason fakes the shot through the cup, goes for it the second time. Two people in the space, and Craig, no problem for the deep defender on this one.
And they've got such excellent receivers in Craig, or deep defenders in Craig and Ramich, and then Ramich can just put it to Craig all day as well.
G finds Chen up line.
And now she finds herself trapped on that sideline.
G, easy shot. The mid defenders here for Waterloo not dropping back onto those cutters in the space. That one over to Ramich. Now Ramich is going to swing over to Whitman. And looks like a call, an injury call. Sang walking off the field here for Waterloo. That could be a big loss. Hopefully she is okay for the rest of the tournament. Looks like she's just taking her puffer here. Should be okay moving forward.
Always important to look after yourself. But you can see, as a benefit of that swing, the huge open shot to the end zone right now.
Whitman will have the disc in yards of space here for Queens. Immediately goes to G up line. G thought about the inside shot but has Ramich back. Ramich over to Craig. That one shot too far in front, no chance for a bid as it sails ahead of her. Mason trying to pick it up quickly to not let the zone set. It doesn't pay off on this one as she throws it directly into the ground. Didn't turn to face her reset. Too casual on that one. And the disc on the doorstep. Queens looking to take advantage. Has Ramich in the reset position. That one popped up. A little bit stagnant there as Ramich opts for the floaty hammer. Mason is in that space. The Queens cutters not moving in that end zone stack. Maybe a little bit of tiredness at the end of the day here setting in. That one goes over and through, and I'm not sure Chow thought that that was going to make it through to her. Wasn't ready for that catch. Queens, their third or fourth opportunity now on the doorstep. They can take advantage this time, and they go inside shot, and it's picked off on the second attempt. Craig coming down with it. Some contact in the end zone. Looks like everybody is okay, no call, and that will stand as a point. Queens running away 11-5 here in this game.
Looking incredibly impressive doing it. Craig just kind of had to stand tall and take the one down after it went over the initial receiver's head. But that's exactly what you can do when you've got the likes of Craig out there as a receiver. So good in the deep field, so good with any disc that's floating up high, like Ramich.
Queens definitely want to try to get their stack moving a little bit more going into the rest of this game and building for tomorrow. They were stagnant and they had about 3 opportunities 5 yards from the end zone that they weren't able to convert on. So they're going to want to clean that up, and the team that is this good, like this Queens unit right now, they should be able to readjust that fairly quickly and be aware that that's not how they want to play their offense.
I think it might have been an attempt to set up an ISO on Whitman, who was just completely shut down, but then why go for that hammer? Excellent dump defense initially on Whitman, or front of stack defense, which is effectively the same thing.
So Waterloo back out on offense. Queens in control. 25 minutes left in this game. They've been in control really since the start, going up 3-0 and then 4-1 right away. This game has always been on their side.
And they look to put it to bed. 7 points ahead. Here come Waterloo.
Mason now. Mason fakes the huck, but an offside was called earlier, but neither team recognized the offside on Waterloo here on offense, so leaving before that pull was put up.
So we're going to have to go again. And I like that use of the observers. They just let you know, and then if you decide the pull wasn't that great for your particular team, you can take advantage of it.
Observers, the active call is made by the observers for offside, of course, with USAU rules. Teams don't make the offside call. See if Waterloo now, second chance here on offense as Dang has it and swings it around to Mason. Waterloo still with no options upfield. The handlers not following their passes. A bit better there as Mason continues forward, fakes the huck. Chen was putting on the pressure. That one, a good shot through to McFarland. McFarland doing a better job of finding space. Now Mason again. Queens with the quick transition. Melt goes over to the far side, faked to the end zone. Zhao looks back to Mason. Mason, no options upfield, has Dang going up line. That one pops up, reeled in the second attempt. Lots of contact there, taking out her own teammate. Everyone looks to be okay, just taking a second to make sure in that situation. Disc will remain in the hands of Waterloo as Zhao taps it in. Zhao looking for an option, has Mason up line, and that makes it look easy. Waterloo with the hold, able to work it up out of the zone this time.
It was a confident and definitive cut up the line by Mason. Strong. And that's exactly why the throw was so easy to complete. It looked good by Waterloo, and their offense did look better. When they started faking some of those swings, they pulled apart the zone a little bit. They were able to go through in the middle to an extent. But that hasn't been a sustainable way for them so far. So just so it started working now doesn't mean it's something you want to do tomorrow. Realistically speaking, at 11-6, you're probably not going to claw your way back into this game, but at that point, every single point becomes about preparing for tomorrow. They could meet Queens tomorrow very easily. So you have to be prepared to come up against this zone. You're definitely going to meet someone in the form of maybe McGill or Lavelle, who are very, very good and will have zones of their own. And you're going to need to know the swing and wing that gets you past this kind of one that tries to choke your main handlers and push you to a singular sideline.
Definitely going to be back to the drawing board for Waterloo tonight. They will be in quarterfinals tomorrow. We've yet to know who that matchup will be against. Haven't made it easy on themselves with one loss already and what's headed to be a second of the day for them here. So that one is now in play with Queens and swung over to Whitman. Whitman has G crashing in. Waterloo not taking away the crashes very frequently as G has had a lot of space to cut in. Now the little shovel pass back to Whitman. G again.
I love that in a zone as well where you dump it straight back and then you just stand there.
G finds an around shot in the layout. D, toe in the space, picks that one off.
Both these teams try to go through the center way too much.
That one swung over now to you. You looking for an option, has Toe behind her. Toe finds some space over to Ko. Now in, Sang snags that one out away from the hands of G and it's centered back to you. The zone still holding here for Queens. A great through the cup shot. You finds Zhang in yards of space, now 2 yards from the end zone, waiting for an option. Has the reset back. Toe does a great job to retain possession. That one just a bit far for her, but Waterloo on the doorstep of a break here to the end zone for Sang. Oh, Hannah Toe, absolutely the star of that point, keeping it in possession for her team, and a break late in the second half here for Waterloo.
I don't know about you, but whenever I see somebody with that elaborate a contraption on a part of their body, be it their knee or their arm, and they still insist on laying out constantly, I'm like, you know what? Maybe Ultimate isn't really worth it. Like, at some point in your life, you're probably going to want it. Like, when you're 40 and it gets cold, do you want to be able to walk? Clearly she doesn't, and for our benefit, I'm grateful.
Hannah Toe, been a star for this Waterloo team today, one of the most consistent players on the field. Loving the combination between her and Angela Yu in that handling position on offense. Later in this game, they have started to figure out that zone from Queens as well, finding more holes. Like you said earlier, still forcing it too much through the middle. Need to readjust a little bit on that, get to the sideline, follow their passes and crash the cup, give and go to create some space for themselves. But a little bit more progress now, 4 points down. 20 minutes still on the clock. Waterloo could go on a run.
I mean, it's starting to get a little bit closer. I'll need to see a few more breaks before I'll believe it's a real possibility, but they went in 8-3, so they have been able to close the gap to an extent. And that was a fantastic inside break by you. Brilliant throw, and it's the kind of throw she has, but it's also the kind of throws that have led to a lot of turnovers, whereas Hare, who was way out on the far sideline, and nobody was marking her, but she stayed lateral with the handlers. If she just slowly walked downfield, would have been a nice floaty flick to her for a score.
Ramitch will pick up here, going straight to G in the middle. Moyer open in yards of space here on the under, shoots straight up line to Chen. Queens initiating that movement so quickly as soon as the disc gets centered, and it goes again to G here. G patient, looking for an option, flicks over the top, has Chen in so much space. A visionary shot from Win G for the point. Queens up 12-7 over Waterloo.
That was fantastic stuff from G. Brilliant recognition of the space available to her. Excellent weight on the disc. The touch you need to be able to exert over the frisbee, that it spins enough to endure the wind, but that it doesn't have the power to be carried out the back of the end zone. That was a magnificent throw. And you have to say, Queens looked consummate in the way they went down the pitch. Two people cut deep immediately, and you can see the handler calling, somebody come back onto me. And Moore had turned already, acres of space, like you said. gets it up the line cut. It was fluid. It was crisp. It was championship caliber.
Absolutely. If they can continue to play like that, they watch this back and see the things that they did so well, making plays like that, and the movement, always having somebody continuing off the cut. That is what makes these championship teams do so well. They're currently just playing at another speed than this Waterloo team.
Bear in mind, that was a hold for Queens after 2 points in a row for Waterloo. But I have to agree with you. They look like they're just a gear above.
3 points away from the win of this game and taking first place in their pool. Waterloo back on offense, keeping the same familiar offensive unit on the line, getting maybe a few new faces involved. Queens, a few different faces involved on defense here as well. You will pick up. Has Ko gaining yards upfield. You almost picked off by the zone. A shaky throw there as now Toe goes up line and already thinking about the throw. Wu had turned away before that was safely in her possession. Now Kristen Ho will center that one to the middle. And a layout hand block, but it bobbles into the hands of Ho again. That one shot too low though. And this one will go back to Waterloo.
Great effort by Ko. And you could see almost getting the Phantom D.
Toe, a cheeky around flick shot there over the top of the wall. Wu centers it back to Toe in the middle. Has Sang going to the end zone, tries to jump in for the score. Signaled not in. Sang right on the end zone line now here for Waterloo. Running out of options, has an undercut coming. And now the break side shot to you in the end zone. The Warriors looking a bit stronger on that second possession than the first, and they get themselves a hold.
Something else I want to say about the Warriors is they have fantastic defense. The bids, the commitment, and the intelligence as well. The likes of Mason, when she was in the cup, got a fantastic D. Zhang just throwing herself about the place. Zhu, it's been brilliant. They just haven't had the offense to match. Like, how do you have that much intensity and desire on defense? Maybe that's the problem. Too much intensity on defense, and then it's bleeding through to the offense. You have to be able to go from hot to cold.
It's a hallmark of a great team to be able to have that intensity and desire to fight for the disc, but then to take a deep breath when they do get the turn instead of, like you said, letting it bleed over, and you end up forcing decisions too many times. And we've seen that time and time again from this Waterloo team today in this game.
So, Waterloo still needing a rake of breaks in order for them to get back into this game. They've shown they can get the turns, but they haven't shown that they can punch them in, which would be my main concern. But it's a big line out there for them.
Mason set to pull. It would be interesting if Waterloo could get a break back. It's a good pull here. It's going to sit up closer to this near sideline, right around the same level as the brick mark, 15 yards from the end zone. Mason is quick down on the mark here. G swinging it over to Ramich. Has G crashing in. That one flicked over a touch, but it gets there anyways. Law putting it up to Chen, and Queens moving it so quickly upfield. Karen Law, now Chen again on the sideline. Has Win G back in the middle position here. Central handler, the around break shot to Whitman, not quite in the end zone yet. Queens going up line. G back into the middle now. Has the inside flick. Craig laying out at the back of the end zone, can't get there. But Waterloo leaving Craig going by herself into that break space with a thrower like G. They have to stay tight on their person there.
So now Waterloo get the disc back, somewhat fortuitously, and Whitmer. Wow, just macking that along. I thought that was a huge D.
Whitman had slapped that in, and the Waterloo player there doing a good job, La Douceur, keeping it in possession here, and now Sang to Turner. Turner has Mason behind her. Mason, the inside flick shot, and again, just trying to force it through those holes that aren't actually there. False sense of space, and Mason puts it back into the wall.
Whitman, brilliant on the defensive end.
Whitman now on offense, looking for an option, has Ramic going up line, but Sang picking this one off. Poached off into that space, read it perfectly, immediately going upfield, looking for Mason, and almost sat up for her to make a play. That throw just needed a bit better execution, but not a bad idea to try to not let the zone set up. I think Sang just trying to get it moving with the likes of Mason going deep there. But this one, G recognizing that it's been a bit of a shakier point. They don't want to let Waterloo get another break back in here. I think a good timeout call.
Smart. And these are one of my preferred times to call a timeout. You're in the lead. The other team's getting a bit of momentum. You don't want to let them get a break or two in a row before you call the timeout, because then that becomes something they can celebrate and catch their breath on without really losing any of the intensity. Whereas when Waterloo are right in the fledgling stages of a comeback, that's when you want to call it. Queens just say, look, we got the disc. Let's just relax. We'll put this in. We'll be 2 points away from being home. Just catch our breath. We're getting a little lackadaisical out there, getting a little wasteful.
So we'll see how Waterloo can set up on defense to try to stop any kind of set plays here. Queens figuring out what they want to do. Got G picking up. I won't be surprised to see the likes of Craig, possibly Ramic going towards the end zone. Whitman, like you said, having a phenomenal defensive game. She's been on all sides of the disc on offense as well.
I've been very impressed with Whitman. She's gotten great Ds, but it's more than that. The entire time in the zone, she's constantly putting pressure on. And she does this brilliant thing, almost like a bullfighter. So she makes the space look open. Like you see the deception of an open shot, and then she just slams that door right in the face of whoever was trying to get through it.
Yeah, just baiting those throws, like you said, creating a false sense of security, and Waterloo has just been playing into that hand. As now they set up, changing the force to a backhand force and a hand block from Mason. G is going to call a foul here, and he saw Mason unsure of the call that was made. She turned around quickly there.
There's an old art from armchair pundits of trying to work out whether or not there was a foul on a hand block or a foot block based on the type of disc that comes out. So that one, I would have said, came out like a disc that had been hit, like somebody had released it. There was no bobble to it. It was like there was a lot of spin and someone just tapped the end of it. So it never really looked like it was a foul.
So the observer coming in to make a ruling on that one. Good choice by Mason to go to the observer, as it was ruled no foul. Like you said, it did look clean. Now Mason picking it off in the middle of the field. Going through the cut. This one's going to work. Moving it into the hands of Mason again. Fakes the upfield shot. Wants so badly to get it through the cup. Has movement over to the side. It's going to hang. Craig coming down, but it's picked off here.
So
doing a good job to get her hand up to that one with the pressure of Craig. Now around to Turner, but that one too low, too slow as well. And Proust reading it all the way, had so much time to pick that one off. G, another chance here on offense, is going to go backhand to the end zone, looking for Chen. That one, Chen making a good effort. She got closer than I thought. That disc was so much pace behind it.
You see, when that came out of G's hands, I was watching it going, that's very low and very quick. It will require some kind of grab.
Now moving it around, So finds Turner. So doing a good job of popping through the cup there, as Mason has to find some acrobatics to retain possession, and then Sang doing the same. Now upfield into some space. Waterloo moving a bit better here. That one's going to go upfield and around to La Douceur. Has the reset in So. Now Deng. Mason, yards of open space, has to get low to keep that one in possession. Waterloo, a chance here at another break. The inside flick. Somehow, no defenders there. So reels that into her hands. A little bit of confusion, but it is a point nonetheless here for the Warriors.
That makes it 12-9, and it is getting steadily more respectable the longer we play this second half.
The second half absolutely in the favor right now of this Waterloo team. If we're counting from the second half, they're up 5-4 here, having been down 8-3. They've managed to win this second half so far, and that's got to be something that they take back with their team, with their captains going into bracket play tomorrow.
One would certainly hope so. A break up in this second half. Looking strong doing it at times. They're still throwing through the middle of the zone, but they've spread out their handlers completely across the pitch, so at least the zone is stretched ever so slightly. So they decided to stretch it a bit more like that. Ladouceur, up until she made that deep cut, which was fantastic and very well timed, looked a little bit lost out there. She was sitting on the near sideline, too far away to be a handler but too close to be a cutter, and allowing the wing to just not have to worry about her too much, knowing where she is the whole time. She should be running basically sprints up and down that sideline, trying to time them with the swings for some yardage, and at least make the wings think about it and not be allowed to come in and put that extra pressure on those throws through the middle for the main handlers.
So 12-9 now here. A good timeout call there from Queens, just recognizing that there's only about 7 minutes remaining in this game and wanting to stop any momentum. You don't want to allow Waterloo to get 2 quick points in here. They could still get within 1 before that hard cap horn goes. I think Queens just really wanting to make sure. 6 minutes on the clock. The hard cap horn going at 6 p.m. Eastern time here. Familiar offensive line out for Queens. Whitman and G, Craig, Proust, Chen, mainstays of this offensive line.
Looking to lead their team into a commanding position tomorrow as the number 2 seeds. Definitely looking like one of the favourites right now, although their second half has seen them drop off a little bit. Do you think that's down to Waterloo adjusting and playing their way in, or maybe Queens taking their foot off the pedal somewhat?
I think a combination of both. Queens adjusted their zone. They moved to a 3-person cup rather than the 4-person zone that they had been playing earlier in the first half, so trying something new. I think Waterloo had an easier time with that zone than the one early in the first half, so Queens maybe need to recognize that for tomorrow, that was more effective for them. But that one shot too high, and Whitman in the space to reel it in on the second effort. G crashing into the cup now on the far sideline. Not too many options. Goes for the around flick, and it's going to blade directly into the ground upwind, and looks like just a conversation about a stall down, possibly where G was.
The wind really picking up for this point. Just after the pull went up, it started to howl. Really fluid match defense melt by Waterloo there as well.
Toe shooting the around, but not a chance there in the space as Ye tried to track it, but really lost it as it went up and over her head. Now G has to go the 70 yards upwind here as Craig shoots it through the cup to Proust. G has been doing a great job of crashing this cup all day long.
You've been talking about that as well, how nobody's really stepping in, and you've got to think maybe communication is an element to that. There's nobody on the other sideline for Waterloo.
Law now with the disc centers it back to G. Has Craig on the open side there, and Craig fakes through the cup. G again open on that crash as now Proust has it up line, and G unmarked. Nobody transitioning on their defense with her as the melt is now called. G has Proust going up line, sits that one up. It's going to hang into space, and Proust somehow comes down with it. Incredible grab. Queens looking commanding once again, up 13-9, 2 points away from victory.
I would call that a daylight robbery. Seemed to be way too much floating up the line pass, but somehow Proust is able to just get up there and rip it down with impunity. So 13-9. And it almost seemed like Waterloo, after they got that turn, didn't really want the disc. They just immediately threw it deep on a questionable decision. Perhaps fatigue starting to play a bit of a role, because that was their legitimate opportunity to get back into this game in a real way.
Seemed relatively early in the stall count that they made that decision as well, so Definitely an interesting choice. Seeing Waterloo confident in their abilities with their lines for the most part, but on that one, in the first half especially, making a lot of decisions that were questionable. So definitely need to go back and review, talk about making the right choices, only taking the shot if it's 100% there. Tomorrow, they're not going to have any room to have these losses that they've had today on the board.
Tomorrow we will return to the straight elimination format, which dictated the action yesterday in the final regional qualifier. Hereby today, maybe hiding some of their moves. You think there's a chance of that? You don't want to give too much away on the first day. Even though seeding is important, it's not everything. And if you want to win championship, you have to beat the best regardless.
We haven't seen a power line from Waterloo yet in this game. That is one thing they have not pulled out. Obviously keeping a lot of their top players together on those lines. Mason, one of them now with the disc as she fakes the pump fake, goes through to Sang. Sang faking the upline shot and now trying to go around, and a huge layout grab. McFarland, that one blading to the ground, somehow gets to that one, and that is the talent that Waterloo has in their back pocket.
One would be forgiven for mistaking that for a joke. McFarlane somehow able to get into a position to make that catch. Absolutely fantastic stuff, and you saw the way it just electrified her team. And the composure, that was probably the best. I mean, the last throw wasn't the cleanest, but I mean, with the wind taken into consideration, it was probably the best offense we've seen Waterloo run all game long. So they've really come into the match in this second half. They currently are winning the second half 7-5. So it's been a better performance. Not quite good enough, and we'll see now that they have the wind at their backs one more time, the chance to close the game a little bit closer. They should really get a break here.
Have to agree there as well. Definitely needing to get some momentum with the wind. Queens have been able to go upwind so far. We've seen with the likes of G being able to crash the cup so easily. She's managing to find those spaces, and Whitman always seems to be open on that sideline too to continue the movement up the field. A few shaky throws. We'll see if they can work it all the way up again. Good to see a team of their caliber be able to move it in these conditions. The wind, like you said, in the last few minutes, absolutely howling now. I'm sure you can hear it on our mics at home as G and Craig go 1 and 2.
Jesus, this wind is so fierce you could probably feel it at home.
The hard cap horn has gone, so this will be the end of the game. Regardless, the last point now being played as Chen crashes in, and that one bobbled off of Chen's hands. Waterloo a chance to go halfway down the field here, about 35 yards to the end zone, as Yu picks up and swings it back to Toe. Toe looking through the cup, and this one G was reading that all the way. She pinched in from that far sideline, aware of the play, and now moving it quickly to Whitman. Now back to G up line, does well to keep that in her hands. That one's gonna float up and just hang out of bounds. Toe reeling that one down, immediately opting for the huck, and again, just the execution on that. However, the roll,
excellent,
downwind,
excellent call.
Maybe not intentional for what she
No,
wanted.
I think that was intentional. I'm going to give Hannah Toe credit for that. Some great layouts. We've been very critical of her offensive play against the zone, so let's give her some credit. A little bit of a compliment towards the end of the game. That was a fantastic tactical decision. Pin them back there.
Trapped on that far sideline as well. G just gets to walk it up a couple more yards to where it went out of bounds. The zone set up here from Waterloo as G gets it back underway. Proust trying to crash in. Proust again into the cup, and G, big around flick blade. That one never coming back in bounds.
I mean, in fairness, considering how close that came to working, like, it shouldn't have even been that good. You go for a blade flick in these conditions. So even though that failed, that was about as effective as it could have been. That was much better than it had any right to be. Great defensive pressure by Waterloo, using the wind as that 8th player. Now let's see some nice, clean, consistent offense so you can go home with something to take in your back pocket.
High release over the top, and it's not going to work in this wind. Just going to be pushed too far. Toe Little smile after that. She knew it wasn't quite the right shot on that one, but had an open U going into that break side.
Still with this position, this wind, she needs to bounce back to the front. Make that a little bit easier for her handlers.
G stuck again on that far sideline, finds Craig back, moving in to their back of their own end zone. Callahan territory. What a way that would be to end the game here for Waterloo as they try to pin G there. G's gonna opt for that big around flick again, and it will drop down, but not the worst option. Had nothing else there. Gets it out of her own zone there and back into the hands of Waterloo as Toe and Yu combining again, but Ko just bobbles it off the palms of her hands. G will pick up quickly here, and now over to Craig. Back to G, going 1 and 2 as she often has done in this game.
And you can hear her calling to her cutters. They are all far, far too deep. Asking far too much of her.
Again, that one just too high for the hands of Wu. Extending to try to get to that, and G picking up quickly. You can see she wants to move it before the zone sets.
I think a lot of the other people on her team are kind of waiting for the game to be over, as opposed to trying to finish it themselves.
And you got to think about the difference in the confidence Waterloo would have finishing this game at only 2 points down, confidently winning the second half, versus Queens ending it with a bit more of a stamp here. See if G can do that. She's going to opt for the huck. It's going to blade once again, but this time so well read. Karen Law dishes it to the sideline. Whitman, a yard from the end zone, has G coming for the reset, but that one, the wind taking control there and just not kept low enough as Toe going directly back the other direction once again. That's going to skip to the sideline, but that is the area that Waterloo has been able to trap G on that sideline as she jogs to pick it back up.
Well, it does seem a little bit like Queens of Waterloo have decided to do this dance in perpetuity, so I guess we're going to spend the rest of our lives here. Not a bad way to do it.
G going 1 and 2 with Law. Now Craig. Chen. Again, the crash is not being covered at all by the Waterloo Cup. Every now and then a cutter will come in, but when the handlers are crashing in, no one is picking up that movement, and it is an advantage to Queens as the tap. Miranda Ko runs onto it. Good decision to holster there. Yu with the disc now, 10 yards from the end zone. Waterloo looking to take the second half, 8-5. The outcome of the game will go in the favor of Queens regardless here. Toe. And that, again, just thinking about the next throw, Sinclair can't control it. G, once again, in that corner. The little high release flick, it's going to drop straight to the ground. See G shake her hands there, and it looks like, unfortunately, an injury on the play. Chen tried to bid for that one as it bladed to the ground.
That looks a little bit like it's a recurring injury, the way she's gone down, but the immediacy with which her coach recognized what the issue was, and she didn't make a scene of it, she didn't make like a big deal out of it. She's just down holding herself. This is something she's experienced before, and that is troublesome because Chen is such a crucial cutter for this team. So frequently she's been in the finishing play of so many points. Well, she seemed good enough to not have to take one.
So Chen will tap the ground, and it will still stand as a turnover here as Yu looking to finish it off for Waterloo. And that one reeled into the end zone. Ko bobbles it, hangs on, and Waterloo lose this game 13-11, but win the second half confidently 8-5. And you've got to think that's got to help them moving forward into tomorrow's bracket play.
Not the complete response that they would have been hoping for, but certainly something that gives you a lot of positives to draw going forward. I liked some of their adjustments that they made offensively, but it still seemed like they were kind of rushing themselves somewhat. I remain suspicious that part of the reason they were able to win that second half is because Queens stepped back a little on the defensive pressure to a certain extent and maybe stopped valuing the disc quite as much. Certainly those last few points seem to point to that as well. But like you say, a lot of positives to draw away from Waterloo and for Queens as they go into tomorrow to the elimination games in the quarterfinals, which we will be bringing you one of.
We'll be live again here tomorrow morning, 9:55 a.m. Eastern Time with the women's quarterfinals. Stay tuned on our social media accounts, Ultimate Canada, across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to tell you who will be in that game. Of course, later tomorrow afternoon, we'll be back with the championship games as well, 1:15 p.m. Eastern for the open game and 4:35 p.m. for the women's. It's going to be an exciting day tomorrow. Becky Thompson here, joined by Lorcan Murray. Don't go anywhere. Come back first thing tomorrow morning. We'll be with you here.